Hi, everyone. It's Tony and Rob here, co-founders of Great Ideaz. And in this video, we wanted to answer the question, why does trellispark help solve the sustainability problem? Now, first of all, we need to first define what we mean by sustainability in this context. What we're trying to talk about here, and what we're trying to explain here, is about sustainability from a business perspective and IT systems perspective. And one of the biggest challenges that we've seen with so many companies is that it's very difficult to build application systems that can very quickly evolve and change over time to meet a changing business world. And this problem just is accelerating. We're seeing in so many ways how so many industries are being disrupted by the introduction of new technologies, that the world changes when we have things like the pandemic that are external forces that you just can't predict. And more industries are experiencing disruptive change. And so the businesses need to be able to respond quicker. And from an IT perspective, from building applications perspective, we need to be able to respond really fast to these sorts of things. So, Tony, first thing I'm going to ask you is, why do we think trellispark really helps solve this sustainability problem?
Okay, so at its heart, trellispark is simply a very strong, lightweight architectural framework. It was written by developers for developers. We've incorporated the latest technologies. We've made sure that the architectural framework itself is both secure, robust, and easy to scale. You can deploy it with a very low infrastructure across multiple deployment options, whether you're doing it on-prem or on cloud in infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. We've made it really easy for the infrastructure teams to be able to pick this up and deploy it. And we've made it really easy for everybody involved in the project to understand what it is and how it works. And this makes it really easy for you to go out and get, IT staff, developers and other IT professionals and bring them into a project that's using trellispark, ramp them up very quickly using our extensive trellispark Academy range of videos and supporting materials, and really get to the point where you can deliver some business value quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, I can see the low infrastructure footprint being that green aspect for sustainability. But when we're talking about it from a developer's perspective, why is it liked by developers? Like, what is it that really works well for developers from the context of sustainability?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, one of the things that we do for developers right off the bat is we're going to eliminate 90% plus of the CRUD software that they would normally have to write. So the CRUD software is all of the software it takes for them to actually display a record on a form. So write it to the database, read it back from the database, update it, delete it. All of that CRUD code accounts for probably 90% plus of typical application code built into a user experience. And we have completely eliminated that, right? You don't need to write it and you don't need to test it. So what this enables developers to do is actually focus on delivering true business value. What is the automated workflow that will really help differentiate that business and deliver a competitive advantage? What the developers really like about what we can do with trellispark is it makes it easy for them to deliver a wow to their users, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what gives us as developers satisfaction, that people like using the applications that we have built. And the other thing is, developers don't like to be using technologies that are 5 years, 10 years, 20 years out of date. So again, one of the key aspects of trellispark and Great Ideaz is we believe in relentless innovation. We know that our systems as developers have got to be able to adopt new technologies quickly and efficiently. So we do the hard work, right? We figure out, how does a new technology fit in? How would you actually integrate it into trellispark so that we can then hand over a holistic framework to developers and say, and here's how it works. If you need to integrate Power BI dashboards, details. Here's how you do it. We've already done all of the donkey work, figuring that out, figuring out how to secure it. That's already done. You can just pick this up and use it. And if you want to tweak it, we've exposed all of that as customizable functionality that a developer has under their complete control to take ownership of and really then drive out, that user experience and that wow to their users.
Yeah, and I can attest to the whole culture within Great Ideaz to try and find those wow factors and being able to generate that. It's so cool when we're able to do that. But the other thing I just want to draw back to is eliminating 90% plus of the code that you'd have to write. That's just huge. I mean, from a sustainability perspective, if you don't have code to change, then it's so much easier to change the user experience and everything around that. So that's so cool. Okay, so the other aspect to this then is from a business analyst perspective and for citizen developers. I mean, there's so many people out there that now are jumping into using technologies to be able to create business value that are not traditional developers or traditional IT professionals. How does trellispark help from a sustainability perspective for folks like that?
Well, if you think about what a traditional business analyst is doing, right? They're sitting down with business stakeholders, they're, workshopping a bunch of wireframes, they're writing a lot of documentation, they're reviewing that documentation with their stakeholders, they're then having to communicate that back to the developers who render it. And then they bring it back to their stakeholders and they find out maybe that's what they said, but it's not really what they meant. Right.
Yeah.
So, they've gone through a process where they have basically created a ton of documentation, a ton of wireframes. They've been involved in, long discussion processes with developers, a long life cycle, getting those changes back in front of the stakeholders only to find out that really I need an extra field here and that label really shouldn't be that name. Right. So, one of the things that trellispark enables us to do is pretty much eliminate all of that work. So what it means for the BA/citizen developer is they can basically sit down with those business stakeholders in a workshop in real time and use the trellispark tools to generate an actual working user experience. They can basically create the different concepts in the application, how they interrelate, what the fields are, what all of the rules are, how those forms are going to interact based on the states of the objects, based on the roles of the users. And they can identify where, I really do need to go and talk to my developer and have some custom code. I've got this invoice. There's a button on here that says generate payment. I need like 20 lines of code that sit behind this button that I can't write. But, I need to be able to tell my developer clearly and succinctly at this point in this workflow, this user is going to push this button. I need you to automate this particular function. And the ability for them to be able to do that and communicate that clearly and concisely to a developer is a tremendous advantage.
Yeah, and just going back to this whole thing around being able to do things in real time, and you going back to your whole wow factor, it is amazing when, I've sat in different business workshops before in the past where you have somebody that's like a citizen developer who is actually changing things on the screen. And yeah, it's great when you have some stakeholders in the room where they say, well, okay, well, this looks about right, but you got to change this field over here. It's got to be named something completely different. And it can't be this, open field. It has to be a drop-down list or something like that. And they literally do it in a few seconds in the meeting. And it's just there. And that's absolutely amazing. And the thing that I love about that is there is no code being written at all when they're doing something like that. That's talk about sustainability. That is so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, right, no code is the best code, right? Because you don't have to build it, you don't have to test it. It runs really efficiently because it's not there, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
From an efficiency perspective, a security, no code is really better, right?
Yeah.
Now, the other really cool thing, and it sort of like spans between the devs and the BA/citizen developers, okay, is that trellispark is be an open-ended framework, right? It's not a closed system where its data is hidden behind an application silo. So what this means, particularly for the developers, the BAs and the citizen developers, is that it is easy to extend and build out from trellispark. So, for example, it's really easy for a developer to add a custom connector to the trellispark framework that would then empower a citizen developer to be able to leverage, the data that's being managed and stored by trellispark in other low-code, no-code solutions. So, the whole trellispark framework has been built from the ground up to enable that open-ended integration.
Awesome. Very, very cool.
Okay, Rob, so, I'm the expert on, what the devs and the BAs are doing, but I mean, you're the expert on governance and what the PMs and the executive like. So from your perspective, what do you think the PMs like most about trellispark?
When you think about it from a project manager's perspective and how you manage projects with trellispark, there's really three kind of big things that are a huge advantage for project managers when implementing projects using trellispark. I mean, the first aspect to this is that when you're actually breaking down deliverables, your work packages, and trying to assign them to different individuals and getting that value packaged up so that you can then schedule that and implement that and work through the implementation of that. trellispark is just, by the inherent design and architecture of it, it is incredibly good and efficient at really defining those packages independently so that you don't have a lot of these interdependencies between these different deliverables that are being produced. The other aspect to this, and it kind of goes hand in hand with that, is the overall effort and the risk associated with delivering business value is just huge. The effort and risk is low, but the actual delivery of the value, the business value, is very high. So with a lot less effort, you're able to deliver a lot of business value, and that is tremendous from a project management perspective. And it's music to a project manager's ears that I don't need a lot of effort for my team, and I'm going to get a big business value, and that goes back to that whole wow factor. And then the other thing that is really nice about this, and again, it goes back to the way and the nature of which the data agnostic services and the whole design of that just lends itself to make it really easy to manage your sprints and deliver value very quickly to the organization. So the whole cycle around sprints, I mean, if you're ratcheting down the development effort, if you're ratcheting down the quality assurance effort required, because system integration testing is almost a given and free value that's part of the trellispark framework itself, it really eliminates a lot of that testing effort required. The actual time it takes to actually deliver stuff back to the business and then show to the business what that value is, it's all there. So it's really, really quick to deliver that value into production.
Right. So in high project ROI, fast time to market. I mean, these are all key things from a PM perspective, right? No code is always the best answer, right? Because no code is less risk. So
absolutely.
Good fun, right? So why do you think the executives are really keen on using trellispark as a solution?
Well, you look at it from a project manager's perspective, and then you extend that out from a governance perspective. There are three huge things that you're getting from trellispark. The first thing is that you're able to deliver a competitive advantage faster. Your time to market is faster. And when we're talking about sustainability, this is the crux of all of it. This is the key. If you can deliver changes to your business applications faster to the market, then you're there faster than your competitors. You're introducing that advanced technology faster than your competitors can. You've got a competitive advantage. So that, first and foremost, from an exec perspective, that is a huge value. The other aspect to this is the total cost of ownership is a lot lower. If you don't need a huge arsenal of a big army of IT professionals to deliver business value, and you can do that faster, your total cost of ownership is significantly lower, but you're getting that value. And then the other aspect to that is, although you may not need as much labor involved in doing things, you also don't need a lot of infrastructure, because trellispark is a very lightweight framework and it runs on smaller footprints of infrastructure. So when you look at the total cost of ownership of trellispark, it's huge. It's very, very low. cost and you're getting a lot of business value. And then the last aspect to this, if you really want to look at it from an exec size, I want to deliver strategic value faster to market. I want to have reduced operating costs, and I want to manage and lower my business risks. And that's the other aspect to this. You're lowering your business risks. One of the things that trellispark is kind of unique in its underlying architecture and the way the data at rest, the way the data is stored in the back end of trellispark, it actually makes it a lot harder to have external vectors like attacking your data, in particular ransomware attacks. It really does help protect against things like ransomware. So even from a delivery perspective, you're reducing your risks and your operations and whatnot. But even from the context of external threats, you're also reducing your risks. So that's huge. So Tony, I think just to round things out, what we can say is that trellispark enables your IT team to be a driver for change instead of an anchor to the past.
To learn more about Great Ideaz products and solutions, visit greatideaz.com. That's Great Ideaz with a Z.com. Thanks.